have golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden.
What's up, YouTube family, and welcome back to the Emperor Atheist channel with your host, the Emperor Atheist. This particular video, I think I'm probably just going to put it into an installment of videos that I already, first installment of subject matter that I had already talked about, which was debunking the moral argument for God. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just make another total video title altogether. But it's going to be dealing with morality and what religious people always say, basically, that you just can't have morality without God. It's a stupid statement. It's a basically, to me, it's an irrational position to take. Not only because you don't have any evidence for that, but just simply because it's irrational. Philosophically, it's irrational. Logically, it's irrational. But first of all, I want to thank all my new and old subscribers. Thank everybody for sharing and liking my videos. Yeah, I'm in Georgia right now, but it's kind of cool out here, man. I said I'm gonna come out here and enjoy this little snow. We actually had some snow. We don't get that much in Atlanta. When we do get it, you know, it's almost like a state of emergency. But so I said I was gonna come out here and do this video. But once again, like I said, thank all my subscribers, new subscribers, and thanks to all of my trolls. I always give thanks to the trolls. Like I said, they always give me great ideas and angles, new angles to actually refute the stupidity. The main thing, first thing I want to say, I did have a debate with G-Man, this guy named G-Man. And one of the things, when he couldn't actually handle anything else in my debate, as far as any of the facts I gave on his Bible and the way that I showed that the God of the Bible to be basically a contradictory concept. I actually showed him that his God could be a square circle or a married bachelor. As far as the nature and what Christians themselves believe of their God. And if they believe these attributes to be their God, then they must understand that their God don't exist, because a married bachelor just can't exist. A square circle don't exist. Okay, so after we went through that, and we went through Bible verses, then at the end, he asked me about morality. Well, where do you get your morality from? And this is a thing, not to pick on G-Man, but this is a thing. Everybody always asks this. When they can't squirm, when they squirm out of textual inconsistencies in their book, men adding things to their book, contradictions, clear contradictions in crucifixion stories, contradictions of the Bible, contradictions of prophetic things that New Testament authors basically forged and lied about from Old Testament texts. And I can go on and on with textual errancy, errancy in the Bible, and textual mistakes. And this is the thing, though. And when Christians and Christian apologists and scholars actually can't avoid, and they have to run from things like that, when they can't avoid the onslaught of evidence that you have against these man-made books, then the first thing they get on is morality. So I already made a video a couple of months ago. I can't even remember how long ago it was. And I always said I was going to get back and basically make a part two. Because Christian apologists and Christians always seem, this is one of their favorite subjects now, morality. Even in a community that I'm a part of now, called the Great Debate Community, morality is always a thing besides the topic of what atheism mean and agnostic mean, which is ridiculous. It's just redundant. But besides that, morality always seems to pop up. What is morality about? What does it have to do with God? Or how can you atheists, these are questions asked by theists, how can you atheists have morality without God? Or better yet, they ask questions, Christian apologists, Christian charlatans, as I say, like William Lane Craig always say, how can you have objective morality without God? And these are basically the premises of the moral argument. For those of you who are familiar with the moral argument for God, it says that if God doesn't exist, first premise, if God doesn't exist, then objective morality doesn't exist. Second premise is, well, objective morality exists. a hell of a premise, but we don't really know if objective morality exists or not. But I'll get into that later. But this is the second premise: objective morality exists. And the third premise is basically saying, well, since objective morality exists, then God must exist. Well, I went at this in my first video on this and show how that's basically bullshit. But I'm gonna go over it again, and I'm going to extend on it. And the first thing I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk about moral Platonism, as far as Plato, the philosopher Plato, who's a student of Socrates and the Socratic method, and show where basically the question that Christians ask, and basically what they're saying is that, well, you can't be moral without God. The thing about it is, morality predates your Bible. And see, this is what a lot of Christians don't know. And people like G-Man and people like that ask these questions, they don't really know. And this is something that we have to understand when we're debating these people. A lot of the history, a lot of things in philosophy, these people just don't understand these concepts. Because for a Christian, and we can say it's arrogant, for a Christian to say, this is why I call people like William Lane Craig a charlatan, because William Lane Craig is actually a very learned person. He's a PhD. He actually knows these things. He understands what the code of Hammurabi is. He knows about the 42 native confessions in Egypt and the morality that pre-existed the Bible and the law of Moses and the 613 laws of the Bible by hundreds and thousands of years. He noticed things. Not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years, I meant. And but of course he has to get paid because he gets a check from these Christian institutions to go around and so-called be a defender of the faith. But people like William Lane Craig understands this, but they keep these arguments, these rhetorical circular arguments going. And sometimes, like I always say, these circular rhetorical arguments basically sometimes turn into semantic arguments. So you have to catch it and watch where the bullshit argument is going. Well, this is the thing. For the Christian or the Jew or the Muslims who say, well, you can't be moral without God. The thing is, when we look at Hammurabi, and for those who are not familiar with Hammurabi, I'm going to put the link in. Hammurabi was a Babylonian king. He's the sixth king, matter of fact, in the Babylonian dynasty. And he was known through history to be a very what we call just king. He did things in a just manner. He just wasn't a Donald Trump. He just wasn't a Joseph Stalin, nothing like that. And he came up with what was called the code, which he used his name, the Code of Hammurabi. Y'all can look it up. It was 282 basically rules of moral codes and laws and statutes. Things like adultery, things like if you steal from your neighbor, then things you have to pay, or things not to do. 282 to be exact. And it was written on this big 7-foot black diorite type stone. The thing about it is when you actually study these codes, you see that a lot of the things the Ten Commandments, we talk about the Ten Commandments, there's only 10. There's only 10 of them. Everything that's within the Ten Commandments is covered in the Code of Hammurabi at least 2 or 3 times, except for the religious institution of the 4th commandment, which is remember the Sabbath day. Okay, we know that's a Jewish thing. Of course, that wouldn't be in the Code of Hammurabi because he didn't follow Yahweh. And this is another thing I must say. For the Christian to ask an atheist, how can you have objective morality? And by the way, when we talk about objective morality, I don't want to switch the subject too fast. But when we talk about objective morality, in actuality, I do feel that objective morality can exist. I'm not an absolutist on the idea of objective morality, but I think that objective morality is used by atheists, and I think that a lot of atheists do have objective morality. I think some morality is subjective, but that's a whole nother subject that I'll probably get into maybe later in this video. How do we differ between what is subjective when we're dealing with morality and what is objective? I'm basically what we call a moral realist. So I do believe in at least one moral fact. I believe there are some things that we do go by and that we intrinsically know. We know certain things that are that things that have intrinsic value. But I'll get to that later. But the thing I'm saying is Hammurabi, and then I'm going to get on the 42 native confessions of Mayat in ancient Egypt, which predates the Bible, which were moral codes too. But the thing that I want to speak on specifically specifically is basically, hold on. No, back. Had to go fix something right quick. So, but basically what I was saying, when Christians ask the questions, when they say, when they ask the question, well, how can you be moral? How can you have morals without this God? And the thing about it, they put their God in, their Christian God. And the thing about Hammurabi, he didn't believe in the God of the Bible. Matter of fact, Hammurabi would be what Christians and Muslims and Jews call a pagan, which they are pagans too, but this is something they would call a pagan. Hammurabi and the ancient Babylonians of that time period actually worshipped Shemesh, which was actually a sun god, a sun deity. So the thing about it, and even on the stone, when you look on the code of Hammurabi, when you look on this black stone, like I said, 7 foot and some inches. When you look on it, you can actually see where this god Shemesh, and the funny thing about this is actually where the Bible steals this Hebrew term for God, Shemesh. When you look in the Hebrew word for sun is Shemesh, but the ancient Babylonian god is Shemesh. And if you can look on this stone, you can see Shemesh like handing King Hammurabi these particular moral codes. So from this historical point, which really destroys this morality, this objective morality, and this Abrahamic God, or this Christian God, it destroys that. History destroys it. Besides meta-ethical issues, which I'm about to get into in this video too, I didn't want to make video too long, but I seem like I'm gonna have to, because this moral thing keeps popping up and popping up and popping up, and they really have no win with it. Think about it. So basically what I was saying, when you see King Hammurabi, he actually are receiving these laws, like mirroring, like Moses was receiving laws from this imaginary Yahweh, this El Elyon. He receiving these laws, these codes of laws. So this shows that these pagans, who these Christians will call pagans, predate them with moral codes and moral values. So this shows that you do not have to believe in this Yahweh, or this Allah, or this El Elyon, or this Adonai, this Hebrew garbage God, to have moral values, okay, or to have codes of ethics. And then once again, like I said, the 42 negative confessions in Egypt of Mayat. Mayat was a goddess, or what would we call in the Kemetic term a nitert, or nitert, which was just a female version of Neter, or God, a goddess. Something that the Bible lacks. It's straight male chauvinistic. It has the God nature. It has the male features, but forgot all about the female features. But you know, that's a whole nother video in itself too. The thing about it, so it really the biblical God just kills yin and yang. It kills balance, has no balance. But Mayat represented balance, a scale, justice, and there were 42 negative confessions. Negative mean because a lot of these things start off with you shall not do this or you should not that. That's why they're called negative confessions. Now some people say, well, you know, the Bible had negative and positive confessions, shall not and shall do, and that is true. But the thing about it, everything that's within the 10 Commandments is also covered within the 42 negative confessions. And it is safe to say, even though I would bet my life on it that this Moses character wasn't even an historical character, but just for the sake of argument, let's just say Moses was real, and children of Israel was actually enslaved in Egypt, which we know we have no historical records of that at all, and we probably never have any records of that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, even if that is so, and Moses and children of Israel actually did this, and they were there for this long period of time, these centuries that the Bible claimed that they were, when they came out of Egypt, and you got to think about this, when Moses came out, then obviously if he was raised in the Pharaoh's house, then obviously he already knew about the 42 negative confessions, because if he was raised in what we call a Pharaoh's house, or the king's house, according to the biblical story, then of course he knew about the laws, because anybody that knows anything about Egyptian history knows that the only people that were basically learned in Egypt, all of Egypt were not learned people, the only people that were basically learned in Egypt, or the people that had education, were the people of Pharaoh's house, and maybe some of his what we call vicegerents, and of course the scribes. The majority of the people who lived in ancient Egypt were farmers and and they were workers. They wasn't learned people. The education system wasn't like that in Egypt. So if Moses, just for the sake of argument, was raised in the house of Pharaoh, then obviously he was raised to learn. He was educated within the Pharaoh house, and he knew things that the rest of the children of Israel didn't know, because the rest of Egypt were basically uneducated people. They were unlearned people. And for people, in ancient term of Kemetic called the Remet. And you can see these things. You study anything about Egypt, you study the history of Egypt. All Egyptologists or chematologists, they know this. They know the history of Egypt. Some people exaggerate it and make it seem like the Egyptians, plural, were just awesome brainiacs, and that's just not the case. It's just not the case. Only a small amount of people in ancient Egypt, in ancient times, in dynastic periods, will learn, and that's basically the king's family. But anyway, so if that's the case, then Moses learned these things. He understood what the 42 negative confessions were, and it is very possible. It's very possible. And I won't be an absolutist on this either. I won't be absolute on it, but it was very possible. And remember what I said. It's just for the sake of argument that Moses even existed. Then he got the 10 Commandments. He borrowed these 10 Commandments and ideas of the 10 Commandments from the 42 negative confessions, and actually just broke them down into 10, and just instituted the Sabbath day bullshit, things like that. But everything else, when you go study the 42 negative confessions and you look at the 10 Commandments, you can see the 10 Commandments is within the 42 negative confessions, just like the 10 Commandments is within. You can find the 10 Commandments within the Code of Hammurabi, the 282 moral codes and laws of the Code of Hammurabi. And then there were other ancient codes. Even the Epic of Gilgamesh had codes of ethics within it. When you read these ancient stories, you go to the Chinese dynasties of Taoism, Shinto, all of these people, which some of them don't outdate the Bible. But the point of it is that there's no history that even those ancient Asian religions that had moral codes, there's no history that they showed where they had to borrow it from the Bible God, and they don't believe in the Bible God. They have no care for the Bible God, and they still have codes of morality. Hinduism, which is thousands of years old in the Bible, have codes of morality. They have moral teachings. The Bhagavad Gita, the Rig Vedas, these are moral teachings within these books, which proves without a shadow of a doubt that the God of the Bible is not absolutist on morality. You don't need the God of the Bible to be moral. So, hopefully that answers some questions and show the contradictions of Christians just believing that you need their God, their particular personal God, to be a moral person. Now, I just want to just speak about a few things as far as metaethical theories, which all philosophers know this. All philosophers know this, that when we talk about morality, and I talked about this in the first video, when I talked about divine command theory, this is something that is used by Christian apologists to show, to try to prove objective morality has to have God as its basis. Well, the thing about it is, I reject divine command theory, just like I reject that God. That God is illogical. It's a square circle, like I've already said. But what else do we have within metaethical theories that atheists can accept? Well, guess what? The majority of metaethical theories basically can be accepted by atheists. When you talk about ideal observed theory, naturalism, moral non-naturalism, consequentialism. As a matter of fact, me and Steve McCrae spoke on this a little bit when we had our talk on atheism and agnosticism, and we got off into a little bit of morality, and that's another thing. That wasn't even what our discussion was supposed to be about. But some kind of way we got off into it because it's such a big topic these days. Morality is, and it's such an illogical position for religious people, for theists, to say that atheists, because this is what they say. They say atheists do not have objective morality because they don't believe in God. No, we don't. And I've always shown, and as I've just shown historically, that you definitely don't need the biblical God to have morality, because history shows us that morality predates the Bible and the biblical God. Back to Plato and Socrates. A lot of people who ever studied Plato know that he wrote on ethical things. He wrote ethical writings, whether it was Euthyphro or Elenchus. He wrote a lot of different things and the Socratic method, and how Socrates was questioned morality in the sense of, well, if God, if we're doing something because this God, we're being pious, we're doing something because a pious God tells us to do it. Or if we kill because this God tells us to do it, or if we don't kill because this God tells us to do it, he said, then morality must be subjective. It can be subjective because we're only doing something because a God told us to do it. And these are a lot of arguments that Socrates got into, and Plato and even down to Aristotle they dealt with. But moral Platonism is a whole nother subject within itself. And a lot of times when you look at the landscape of moral Platonism, you can actually see where Christian moral ethics actually come from. They borrowed this from Plato and the Greek philosophers. And this is another example I must make. Plato and Socrates and Aristotle, they did not believe in the bullshit God of the Bible. So if these people who were well-known, world-renowned philosophers were not Christians, but they talked about moral ethical codes, then where did they get it from? I'm asking you Christians. I'm asking all of you Christians who always ask atheists a stupid question, or who always claim that atheists can't be moral because we don't believe in your God. Where did Plato them get it from? What made Plato and Socrates and Hammurabi and the Egyptians come up with moral codes? Because they rejected your God. They did not. A lot of them didn't even know about your God. Your God wasn't even in existence at the time. You people hadn't even created this God yet. So think about that. And then there's another thing that must be understood when we talk about morality. And like I said, I'm more of a moral realist. The thing about this is when you, and I had something I wanted to read. Probably left it downstairs. I don't even feel like going to get it really, but it's okay. But I think y'all getting basically the point of what I'm making. But the thing about this is, when you hold to a illogical a view, and before I even get off into that, I think I said this in my first video, as far as my debunking of the moral argument for God. The thing about this, and I don't see why it's so difficult, but the thing about it is, even when even if you accept, just say these three premises of the moral argument. If God doesn't exist, then objective morality doesn't exist. The first one. Second one, objective morality exists. Third one, therefore God exists. Well, even if we accept this, right? Just say we accept this, on whatever merits, okay? The thing about it, no Christian scholar or Christian has ever ontologically tied God in with morality. Then they can't do it. People like William Lane Craig, this charlatan of great magnitude, has never done it, and he know he can't do it. And the thing about this is, they basically want to keep it like that, and I'm gonna tell you why. And what I mean by ontologically tied, because this is what they say. They say that God is basically, and this is all a part of this divine command theory bullshit, and I just didn't feel like getting off into all of it, but they're saying that God, this imagined being in their brains and in their minds, is ontologically tied to morality. Now, I just showed historically that obviously the sun god Shemesh of Hammurabi must have been ontologically tied to morality as well, because he handed King Hammurabi codes of moral ethics. I also must, and if you say that the God of the Bible is ontologically tied to morals, then obviously the many gods and goddesses, the goddess Mayat, is ontologically tied to morals too, because she is the reason behind the 42 negative confessions, or whoever wrote it, or whoever came up with it. They gave the props to this god, this goddess named Mayat or Mu'at. Now, I just want to show the contradictions again, and the illogical positions that they actually hold and don't realize it. Okay, but let's get back to the Christian God. They say that God is ontologically tied to morality. And William Lane Craig said it one time, and I almost threw up when I heard it. And shout out to Prophet Azad, man. That's my man. Those of you who haven't subscribed to Prophet Azad, man, that's my man's now, man. That's my man's now, man. He's guy, man. He's up and coming, man. He's gained a lot of subs. He has a TV face. He has a little TV face that he talks on with his. He's always dressed for winter and shit. I like him, man. That's my partner though. Well, shout out to Prophet Azad. He actually like chops William Lane Craig up. I mean, really chops him. You know, I talk a lot of shit, but I do my thing with him. But this guy actually takes his time and shows the actual stupidity of William Lane Craig. But anyway, William Lane Craig, yeah, like I say, shout out to Prophet Azad. Those who ain't subscribed to Prophet Azad ZOD, just go check him out, man. He's awesome, man. He got an awesome channel, awesome material too. Shout out to my boy Godless Cranium too. But anyway, William Lane Craig said, and I wish I would have pulled up the video, but I wasn't thinking. But that's okay. You know what? Maybe I could still splice this video and actually put this in here. I probably could still do that because I ain't like the videos published yet. But anyway, William Lane Craig, and I still might do that, so y'all can hear this dumb shit come out his mouth, or I'll put in the link. But anyway, William Lane Craig said that God, of course, his personal Christian God, which I just showed is bullshit anyway. He said his personal Christian God is ontologically tied to morality, just like water is ontologically tied to H2O. Yeah. Water is ontologically tied to H2O. Now, we know for a fact that water is made up of H2O, okay? We understand that. But there were centuries and centuries of people who have lived and died who didn't understand H2O, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have an understanding of what water was. So that's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot, Bill. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot when you say stupid stuff like that. Because one thing about it, we have actually figured out what H2O is and how it is tied to water. But the thing about it, when you try to compare that and say God is ontologically tied to morals, we don't know who God is. We can't test and observe God to see if he's actually intrinsically good, or if he's omnibenevolent, or if he's actually moral. We can't do that, Bill. I'm sorry. You have to actually go kick rocks with that one, because that's bullshit. And all of you Christian, and there's a few other guys that's been hitting me up on YouTube trying to challenge me, and they really just, I'm sorry, man. Maybe I sound arrogant, but they're just not. Some of them just not worth even trying to get into a debate with. I mean, I'm sorry. I just like people like Kent Hovind. I would simply debate Kent Hovind just for fun, because he actually has a lot of followers. I would just debate him just to make him cringe in a room, and you know, I would do that. But I love these other little bitty Kent Hovinds, because a whole bunch of you motherfuckers out here that just dumb as shit, but you don't have the followers that Kent Hovind have. So I really don't want to waste my brain cells on you. This is what my partner Skylar Fiction does. Skylar, you need to stop doing that, my man. You got to stop. And yo, y'all check Skylar Fiction out too. Shout out to all my crew, man. Dragnot, Skylar Fiction. These guys are coming up. Steve McRae, great debate community. But yeah, Skylar Fiction, man. He takes on all of these guys like they on crack or something, man. They get on this motherfucking, man, be saying shit, man. You just have to cut the fucking video off. Shout out to Skylar, man, for having patience with this other guy. I don't even, what's his name? Delo, some dumb shit. This dude said the sun was a planet. All type of dumb shit he was saying out his mouth. I can't even repeat now, because I actually had to shut down my brain so I won't remember some of the dumb shit he was saying. But yeah. So some of these guys that try to come at me, if you're intelligent, man, and you're a theist, then we can debate anytime you want, man. But if I got to have some type of respect for you, because I do have respect for a lot of theists. I have a lot of friends that are still Christians, that are evangelical, as I used to be, Methodist. As far as in my studies, I grew up partly Seventh-day Adventist, because my mother was Seventh-day Adventist, of course. So I had to go to church on Saturday sometimes too. And then and my father, who didn't really respect the Seventh-day Adventists, he didn't like the teachings. He was more Baptist minded, but he was United Methodist as far as the teachings. But he had this Baptist down south type mindset, because his father was a Baptist minister. So I kind of followed in my father's footsteps as far as the John Wesley camp. John Wesley and his brother Charles Wesley, those who know the history of the United Methodist Church, coming from the evangelical, Anyway, but so some of you, I just can't see myself debating. I think it'd be a waste of fucking internet time. I just don't see myself sitting down talking with you because I know you ain't talking about shit. And I won't even get credence to your name, man. I mean, I would at least shout out G-Man. Even though G-Man is not really coherent in his teachings. He's not really learned as he should be as a Christian, I don't think. He swears he knows everything, but he's not. But I will at least give him some type of credit for, sometimes he can at least put together sentences and try to defend what he believes in. But a lot of you cats, man, I'm sorry, man. I just can't give you the fucking time of day. But basically what I wanted to say, and I was going to end this video, man, because I'm already over 20 minutes. I don't like to make long videos, man, because I don't like looking at fucking long videos. But basically what I was going to say, man, when you think about it, man, the view, just think about this. The view that God, right, is the only possible basis for objective morality basically requires us to reject all other meta-ethical theories. And plenty of other meta-ethical theories that actually prove that I just didn't get off into. And maybe I'm going to get off into this third installment. Meta-ethical theories objected that falls upon objective morality. This is why I say I think objective morality can be a real thing. And like I said, some things are subjective. And I want to give my example before I even keep going. And you can see this subjectiveness sometimes even within Christians, just with Christians. For example, when we talk about the idea of abortion, there are some Christians who think this is morally wrong, and there are some Christians who think this, hey, do what you do, it's your body. This is a moral argument here. And you have some believers who say it's on this side of it, and some who they're on this side of that argument. You have some atheists or non-theists or agnostics who on this side of abortion, on this side of morality on abortion, and some that on this side of it. So, what else? Euthanasia. What I mean by that? People who want to die, who tell a doctor, hey man, I want to die, man, kill me. Some people think that is immoral. Some people think that, hey, that's the person's choice to die. But this is a moral a concept. This is something that's moral. Hold on for 1 second. This is something that is moral. And you see that we have two different sides of this. Y'all hold for 1 second. Plug this back up right quick. Yeah, I'm back. So you understand the point that I'm making. Some people feel that this is the right way to handle this, or some people feel that this is the right way to handle it. So we see that basically when we're dealing with morality in situations like this, of what is right and wrong. And think about it. A lot of these meta-ethical theories don't actually tell you what is right and wrong. I mean, you have to get off into things like, I guess, what we call utilitarianism, when it speaks about what is right and wrong. And this debate, philosophical debate on both sides of the issue. It's philosophical debate on both sides of the issue, even amongst theists, about morality being objective or morality being subjective. I can agree with a lot of morality being objective. I can. Like I say, I'm not an absolutist on it, but I can agree with it. But the thing is, when you hold a view, and I'm talking to you theists, you Christian, when you hold a view that God is the only possible basis for morality, then you have to reject, and I'm talking to you too, Bill, William Lane Craig, somebody I would love to just embarrass. You have to throw out all the other meta-ethical theories, in which philosophers already know that these theories work without a God. You do not need a God to have morality. This is why these other meta-ethical theories exist. So when you think that your God, your personal God, is the only possible basis for morality, then you have to throw all these other meta-ethical theories out, and you can't, because then to throw them out, you have to show reason why They don't work, and you can't do that. And we have no knowledge or evidence of why any other meta-ethical theory doesn't work. We have no reason to think why your divine command theory is any better than the ideal observer theory, or any better than consequentialism, or any other meta-ethical theory that atheists can attain to. So I just wanted to make this second part video to that, man, to show that. And basically, like I said, man, for Christians who think that God is the only possible base for morality, for you, like I said, for you to do that, you got to reject. You have to throw out all these other meta-ethical theories, which you can't show. And the only way to do that, you have to show that they're bad and they're not good, and that they have no basis at all. And you can't do that. We know you can't do that. Even small-time philosophers know you can't do that. So basically, what you're doing, Christians, when you say something stupid like that, and I call it stupid, you're just jumping to conclusions. That's what you're doing. You're jumping to conclusions and throwing your guard in there, and you're trying to force your beliefs. You're still coming back to forcing your beliefs on people, which is, I already said what it was. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it. But once again, man, I am the Emperor Atheist. Like I said, man, I'm trying to probably splice the video and put it in there. On this dumb shit that William Lane Craig said. But once again, I'm the Emperor Atheist. I am out. Peace.
What it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden.